Oh, I haven't done the countdown, so we're just going to go straight live.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. What we'd normally do is have a countdown, but I thought we're a couple of minutes behind, and we are live to the world on LinkedIn, Facebook, and goes directly into another social channel. But it's the soft and system size to sales, the triple S. I have my good friend here on my left, that way. Shay Lynch, welcome back, actually, and welcome back after a big break as well. We haven't been doing this for about a month now, just over a month, so you're welcome.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's been a month, and Christmas break, and then I was on a third attempt COVID holiday for the last 18 months, and I was lucky to actually get the holiday in, and I was in Mexico, so it's great. I had a great break, and it's always great to get back into it after.
Yeah, get back into the swing of things. So today, really, what we're talking about is naturally you set up the process. You've done the process. You worked with the client, which is equally important. You followed the process to the close, and you've done the close, and you've done everything else, which is good. You signed the contract. You deliver the goods, the service, the product, whatever it might be. But the key thing is, you as salespeople and sales professionals, is you have to be your own customer service person. You can rely on your customer service team, your customer success team, or however your company is set up. But I believe that you really have to have the necessary skills to know and work with your client after the sale. And I think that's hugely important. If you want to be professional, if you want to manage expectations, if you want future business with the client, you have to treat them as if, and once the products and services is being delivered and everything else, you have to work with the client just to make sure that they're satisfied with the service that they've had and got. So this is what we're talking about today. So Shay, share your different ideas, and let's have a conversation about this thing. So I think
it's really Jason, first of all, I just want to absolutely agree about everything you've said. You've done all the hard work. If you think about it, Jason, and again, I'm going to talk about the process side of things. Yep. You think of all the effort and the cost of that effort all the way to get from the initial conversation, the initial lead generation, all the conversations, the inquiry forms, filling, understanding their needs, meetings, proposals, signing contracts. The effort in that is unbelievable. And all you can go through that process with so many different companies and then not get the sale. So the cost of that element is huge, right? So you want to make sure when you get that job, it's going to be really effective. So you don't just want to stop. You just don't want to go, oh, we've done it now. We've got the customer, move on to the next one. No, you're only starting the process because, and a lot of, I see this as a big gap. Some people are really good at it, Jason, because they're friendly, they're happy, they love building relationships, and they do this naturally. But there's other people who are just thinking, yeah, I'm good at process. But no, you have to really go above and beyond, because when you get to that sale, you've just told them, well, we can deliver what you want. And hopefully you've said then some as well. So you're going to go above and beyond. So now you have to prove that you can deliver, right?
Yeah.
So that's your opportunity to actually solidify the relationship for the long term. Because, Jason, even with that customer, you know yourself, the most efficient sale in the game is the repeat business with a customer. Going back to the start of that funnel is so inefficient, but everyone has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you're going to create and generate a really strong customer experience. So when you get onto this stage, I don't talk about process, I talk about experience. And you have to give that customer that experiential service to ensure you get more business. And then, Jason, it's not even about that, because what I do with my clients is once you've proven yourself time and time again with your customers, two other things happen, right? We talk about getting that repeat business. So if you think of the steps of a funnel, you don't have to go back to the start. You're going back to the very end, the order part, because you've created that
exactly.
relationship.
So you're going back into that area because you built up the relationships along the way. You know all the key stakeholders within the organization because you signed the contract. Now it's all about delivering and delivered what you're saying. But I also think there is things that you should be doing which is slightly beyond what you would normally do. What I mean by that is go beyond the customer's expectations. Set the agenda. You set out the parameters that you do within the process. You let the client know all the way through exactly what's happening, and you tell the client what's happening. I'll give an example. Yesterday, I was working with on a coaching with a client of mine, and the key things that we both discussed is all the elements. And he worked for an IT company, so all the elements. He said, "Well, you have to let them know." So you set out an agenda all the way through. So whether it's a spreadsheet, a shared spreadsheet that you give to the client, but or work in OneDrive or Google Docs or whatever, but all the steps along the process, who's been involved with the engagements level, and then almost like tick it off. And both of you collaborate on this document and tick it off all the way through until the end goal. But I think after the end goal, which the products and services are being signed off, you go slightly beyond that, is go, what happens next? Said the service and products being delivered, great, happy. But the next steps is the follow-up, the customer service. Have we gone through every single step? Are the customer clients, and have you gone beyond their expectations for what they expect for whatever you're delivering, the service or product?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good strategic approach to give to the client as a shared document, a shared strategy document that they're both invested within that process as well. But beyond that process, and as you suggested, I think we need to start training people a little bit more beyond that. For the people that just like, there you go, that's done and delivered. But what happens after that? I think that's important, and that's
I
what
totally agree.
about.
And I'm just going to add one little more element to that. I call that the wow factor.
Yeah.
I call that the wow factor when you're delivering your service, right? And to give you an example, Jason, when I go in to do a job, like I always believe in starting small. Prove, like say you're in your proposal in your orders, you're saying what you're going to do. Then at the very least, you have to do what you've said, right? That's exactly the first goal, right? Commit, make that commitment, and do whatever it takes in the background to ensure that happens. But then when I'm there, and again, this is easy in my world, and I want to give it an easy analogy so people can understand it. When I'm doing a lot of workshops with my clients, like I'm not only just learning more about the core problem that I've been asked to solve, I'm learning more about their wider business area or business, depending on the client. But then what I'm going to do is, as I get comfortable in what I'm doing, and I feel that I have a bit of capacity to spare, or even do it on my own time, I will say, look, I noticed you have an issue here. Like, I'm happy to share some thoughts or have a brainstorming session with you and help you come up and formulate a plan to achieve something there, right? Because then they know, Jason, that I'm not just in it for me. I'm here to really solve their problems. I want them to see me as an external partner, or like an external partner to what they do, like that I play in their playground, that I care about their outcomes too. And what happens more often than not, Jason, when I finish that project, they'll go, look, Shay, you did some really good initial work with us here. Can you help us do that? And maybe another project will come to light. Now, I don't do it for that reason, Jason. I do it to show that I care. But that's obviously a net outcome of doing that. So what I've learned over the time and what I share with my clients, this wow factor. Like, so whatever you do, Jason, I have about 20 wow factors that I can offer. And I'll always find one that will suit a certain circumstances with a certain client. So I have them ready to go. And then I'll pick whatever ones that I can work with. And I've also have some amazing templates that I've developed over the years that I will share with them. And that's I might give up an hour or two and a few templates. Nothing to me, Jason, in terms of time, but it's everything to them in terms of what they can do next. And I always recommend companies and especially salespeople, to actually build your 20 wow. So when you were talking about that document, Jason,
Yeah.
that those next steps, you will have a number that you can call on when you see a certain fit for a certain issue with their client. And it makes a world of a difference on building and strengthening that relationship for long-term
And I think
relationship.
that's all about customer service. And
Yeah.
it is because what you're doing, the initial problem that you're solving, whatever that might be, that's that. But then you're having a look for other things that you can just say, look, I'm going to give you this for free. I'm going to give you some more value here because I think it's I've got the necessary skill sets to help you here. So look, this is what I would do for other clients. This is what I've done for previous clients. Set up the agenda, said, look, I'm going to spend 30 minutes, an hour of my time to run through this with you so that you can cover that. And what you're doing there is it's like opening up the door very slightly and peeking in, but then you're slightly opening up the door even wider so you can actually see the bigger picture of the organization and really understand other areas, other possibilities where you can actually serve them better in terms of what you offer and basically what they have. And again, it's to understand them because they don't necessarily know everything that you do. Hopefully, the knowledge that they have nowadays is pretty big, but it's your knowledge that we can actually give to them so we can create more value for them, and that is customer service. And it is really going beyond customer service, I think.
Yeah, no, it is. And to me, it's not like if you're, I'm trying to get into the mind of a salesperson. If I was coaching salespeople now, I'd be saying, this is not an extension of your job. This is absolutely a part. You must go above and beyond for your business and embed and embody the values and principles that your company has set out and make sure your customer knows them. That is so important. And it goes back to basics, Jason. But here's the other thing that I've learned over time. When I was doing a lot of work with smaller companies, when I've done that above and beyond element, and I've really like put my heart into a project, I've helped them in other places, like more often to not. And again, this happened to me over time. I didn't design this, but I discovered that it was a consequence of applying this approach that when I finished with them, they would often say, well, look, one of my friends and colleagues has another business. I really believe that you can help them. And I'd love you to do what you've done for me to them. And they've opened up their own network to me, Jason, because I proved I'm a really trusted partner. And so here's the thing, Jason, over time, what I've learned to build that into my own process where if it doesn't happen naturally, over time, I'll say, look, is there anyone else you think that I can help? I would love to help them the way I've helped you. Because here's the thing, then you get the referral model going. And again, you don't have to go back to the start of the funnel. You're halfway through because you've got those warm introductions, a really qualified reference, and then you're only going through half the funnel. So there's two things.
I was going to say, and jump in there just for a second, is because I was discussing this yesterday, actually. The right time to actually ask for a referral and the right time to ask for a testimonial case study and that is once you've more than satisfied their needs, they're ecstatic about you. You can't do it at the early on in the process. Or do you know anyone else that can do it? Because you haven't proved anything. You haven't done anything for them. So you have to do it once you've proved your point, you've done the close, you've gone beyond. They're ecstatic. They love what you do, and then that's the right time to ask if they haven't already referred you to someone else. So that is the right time. When they're at the peak state, when they're delighted and happy, you are the trusted advisor that you reach the top end of. They will call you as and when there's a challenge or problem. And I know you work with a continued client there. So they're always asking you now, we have this challenge. So now you're a trusted advisor. So that's really good. And I'm with that with a couple of companies as well. So that's the place to be. And that's when you can ask for referrals or they give you referrals.
Exactly. But you can create as part of your process. But going back to that part, Jason, as if like we're talking to salespeople here, that has to be a consistent part of their approach. Because I'll give an example, Jason. When I used to do a lot of traveling around the country and across to the UK. Like I used to go down to I'd spend like 3 or 4 days down in Cork. Like I practically lived in a hotel for a year, Jason, in Cork. Beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
But as I was getting to know them, I would drive down early on a Sunday, because I like to relax on a Sunday evening.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And it was too far to drive down on a Monday morning. It was West Cork, but I used to stay in a hotel in Douglas, called the Rochestown Park Hotel. Great service, lovely hotel.
Love it.
And I drive down, and they'd have a bowl of apples there, right? Now that's not their core service, and that would be great because I was
there.
Yeah, exactly. No pun intended. But I look forward to having that apple when I arrive down.
Yeah.
And because then I'd go for a bit of a workout. That after a long drive, have an apple, go for a run or go to the gym or whatever. But there was one time the bowl of apples weren't there. I was highly disappointed, and not that was their core part of their service, but I come to expect it. So if you're going to go above and beyond, you're going to have to meet those expectations. You can't do it half the time and then do it.
Consistency. That's it. It's to show up exactly the same way every time. And I've just been on holiday as well. I went for quite a posh, if I can say my words properly, I went to a very posh hotel in Gran Canaria, and we used to go out in the evening. The beds would have been done. We might have messed up the beds, but I'd go out and have dinner. But the maids would go back in again for the second time, clean for the second time, and remake the beds, and then take your pajamas out, your nighties or whatever, and put them on the bed, all pressed and cleaned and everything else ready for bed. Those little bits of things that you can do, which is unexpected, those little things that are, and it was consistent every single night. But that's how we have to show up as sales professionals, is consistency, to follow a plan, to follow a procedure, just to get that wow moment of going, wow, that was phenomenal what you just did. That's and you get that warm fuzzy feeling inside.
Yeah,
that's what the buyer wants to feel.
And it is, Jason. And here's the thing: the reason why that is so important, first of all, to get repeat business, but the other thing as well, Jason, is you're going to stop them from even entertaining any of the competition, even if it's half the price. They've become so trusted and reliant on your service because you're going above. It's not just a transactional thing, it's a partnership thing, and you play in their playground so much so that you won't even open the door to the competition. So you solidify that.
Yeah, it is in a good way, an integral way, and in a positive way. The customers like you so much, they won't even look anywhere. Their heads are not turned, and they just keeping the competition out because you're doing a phenomenal job. They don't need to go anywhere else because you practice what you preach, you say what you're going to do, and you deliver it. The amount of times that I've seen, and I've worked with a lot of companies, is they don't practice what they preach. They say they're going to deliver something, and they don't let the customer know that it hasn't been delivered. And all of a sudden, the customer's irritated and frustrated. And you go, well, we just sold this, but you're not delivering it. You haven't backed up. You haven't said what you've done. So you have to have that, almost like that tick process, as we've said before, to manage their expectations all the way through and out deliver. That's why Amazon does so well, because exactly, you buy a product, when it's going to be delivered within the next hour or so.
Like Amazon have this model sewn up, Jason. It's a great example to bring up, because not only that, like, they make it easy for you to buy associated products by saying people who bought this generally like this stuff as well. I'm always interested in seeing what they do. And not only that, if something goes wrong or if you're not happy, they have a really good returns policy. They take customer service and customer complaints seriously. They keep getting all that feedback so they can keep tweaking the model, because they talk about, it's not customer centricity isn't part of their goal. It is their goal. That is what they do. And that's why they are the leaders in what they do, because they've taken their customer service seriously.
Yeah. And ironically enough, I bought something for Christmas, sent over to my parents' house. Didn't work. fact, it started to go in flames a little bit. I complained once or twice, and then the guys at Amazon said, fine, we'll just give you full refund. You can keep the product. I went, wow. I had it packaged up, and it was supposed to be picked up, and it was 7 days, and it hadn't been picked up. Just called them, said it's still not picked up. Said, look, that's fine. They haven't picked it up. It's our fault. We'll take the problem. And I've actually felt quite good and said, we're going to give you a refund straight away. No problems, no questions, no queries. And for them to do that, they've gone beyond. I feel satisfied, and everyone else feels good about. I think you have a good feeling associated with that. And that's what we all need to do with what we do.
Yeah. And just on that point, another part of this sort of customer experience that I talk about, like you have the happy path when you're doing everything right, Jason, but inevitably something will always go wrong. That's life. Nobody's fault. It just happens, right?
Yeah.
But when your customer takes time out to complain to you, you listen, right? And it's a simple process that I always advise that, first of all, if there's an issue, just get on the phone to them and say, look, we'll have this problem fixed for you in 3 days, right?
Yep.
So I'll be back in touch. So we'll put a corrective action in place. So you'll get up and running again in 3 days. You call them in 2. So you give yourself that day of flexibility. You exceed their expectations. And you go, in that 2 days, we'll have that fixed. We'll also have a plan so that will never happen again. And then you fix that. You put that plan in place, and then you call them, say, I said I'd have that fixed in a week. I'm calling you in 6 days. And once you show, because once they see, Jason, that, yeah, not only were you there when things were good, but you did solve an issue, that will go a long way to solidify. So you can use a complaint as a superpower correctly. But I did this with a client before, and this is what not to do, Jason. A customer, when I was explaining this process, I won't mention the company, that they decided to instigate or catalyze an issue so they could do this process, and it all went very wrong. And like, you don't catalyze an issue to instigate this process. It's only a process you do to show your customer that you're a loyal partner to their business and you care about their outcomes. You don't instigate an issue, for the sake of it.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a bit of a challenge. So look, we've discussed a lot of things today. So we've discussed that salespeople need to go beyond. They need to have a process. They need to have customer care to manage themselves. They need to have a process beyond the sale, but they also need to manage expectations. And to, as you suggested and alluded there, is if you give people a guide of when things are going to be done, you go beyond that and you say that you're going to deliver. So there's lots of different things that we're talking about. I just think it just needs to be practiced a lot more. It just needs to be done a lot more. So,
build your customer experience process for when you get a new sale. This is the as you said, step by step. These are things you must do with that new customer to ensure they'll come back to you again and again and again.
Yeah. Today's been absolutely incredible. So we look forward to seeing everyone again next week, where we'll be discussing the soft and system sides to sales. We're going to be breaking down the process and repackaging it back up. But what we want to do really is to give an eclectic array of knowledge and know-how. And we're just going to have a look at different areas of this because it's quite fascinating. There's such a huge area that we can look at.
Absolutely. Like, there's so much more to give, Jason.
Speak to you next week.
See you. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.